All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the writing workshop presented by Rocky's Resources and the University Writing Center. So my name is Danielle, and my other presenter here with me today from the Writing Center is Rachel. So we'll both be kind of switching off and talking about the writing workshop and ways to help you with writing, both in and outside of the classroom. So the agenda for today is that we will talk about how to digest different prompts, some in-class essay tips, some out-of-class essay tips. We'll also talk about the resources for the Writing Center online, and then also other online resources that can really help you with your writing online.
So to start off with, we'll talk about digesting prompts. And this is when you first get your assignment and when you first see the prompt, how do you tackle that prompt? How do you digest it in a way that makes your work efficient and helps you answer what the prompt is asking for? The first questions that you need to consider are, what kind of paper is it? Is it a research paper? Is it opinion-based? Is it argumentative? Is it asking you to present two sides of something? The next question is, what information or arguments do I need to include for a successful paper? So this is going to be probably clearly outlined by your professor, and if it's not, you should always ask. You should be sure what kind of information you need to present, including research, if your professor is asking for statistics, if your professor is asking for academic opinions, and you also need to be sure that you're providing arguments. If your professor is asking for an argument from you or arguments from other researched academics. The next question is, how much research do I need? This is an important question because it's really easy to over-research or under-research a paper. Your professor will probably have given you a sort of ballpark of the number of research pieces that you need, sometimes between 5 to 7 journal articles, or they'll say you need one book, one journal article, and some news articles. Be sure to look for that information in the prompt. The next question is, what formatting and citation style do I use? So some disciplines use APA, some disciplines use ASA, some use Chicago, some use MLA. And for your discipline, it is your responsibility to know what that citation style is and what that formatting style guide is. But you also need to be sure that your professor is stating clearly which one you need to use, because sometimes the one you use in your profession is not going to be what the class is asking for. So that's an important thing. And last but certainly not least is when it's due. This is going to be helpful information in making sure that you have enough time to plan a successful writing sample. So with that due date in mind, you need to create a plan of action. The first thing to identify in your plan of action is topic. Give yourself a date of when you want to have your topic done. Next, you need to create a thesis. So this is different than a topic. A topic is just a general sort of subject that you're discussing. A thesis takes a stance and is specific. This is a very important step because this thesis is going to be the basis of your entire paper. Then you need to outline. Take that thesis, that claim, that stance that you make, and turn it into a fully fledged argument that's supported with research and that is supported with your own opinion. Finally, you need to write, of course. Take the outline and the plan that you've made and apply it through fully fledged paragraphs. And hopefully you've given yourself enough time in your plan of action to edit. This is especially important even though we have things like spell check and Grammarly. It's important that you edit your paper yourself so you know that you're saying what you mean to say. And this is good for you to go back and go through one more time, or if you have a friend who's a really good editor, you can always bring that editing step to the Writing Center. But if you're having trouble with any of these steps, you can bring that to the Writing Center, and even through our online formats that we have going on, we can help you make that plan of action if you're stuck.
Awesome. Awesome. So now talking about in-class essays. So right now, with a lot of classes moved online, we'll kind of talk about how in-class essays can look online next. But thinking about when you're in class writing essays, making sure to practice ahead of time if at all possible. So this could be through the use of previous questions, like maybe your instructor has given exams in the past and allows you to look at some of the previous questions, and maybe they'll even be the same questions, or maybe they'll just be similar. Or some professors might give you a list of 10 essay questions and they're going to choose 3 for the exam. So any practice that you can get done ahead of time, if possible, is definitely recommended. And going kind of like farther than you think with it. So rather than just reading it and saying, oh, okay, yeah, I could totally answer that, actually giving yourself an outline and thinking, how would I answer this? And saying more to yourself and doing more work than simply, oh, yeah, I could answer that question, but really going through practicing answering that question as if you were, answering it in class. And you could even go as far as timing yourself and really writing out the full essay. That really just depends on your time, and hopefully you're leaving enough time to prepare and to do all of those things ahead of time if that is allowed or available to you. Making sure to read the questions carefully. This sounds so basic, but it is very, very important. So you would hate to miss like a very important word. Sometimes missing the word like not or instead of, or certain things that can throw off maybe your line of thinking if they're not bolded or highlighted or underlined, and they might not be. Those can be easier to miss. So making sure to write on that essay question if you can, and really, underlining for yourself or circling whatever might be most important for you to answer, or anything in that sense. Making sure you're carefully reading all parts of the question as well. Identifying the key words. So this is, again, comes down to as you read that question carefully, hopefully you are circling, underlining, highlighting, anything that you can do with those in-class essays to get your mind like in the right place of what you need to include and what you should be really thinking about for the essay questions. And then outlining. A lot of times people think, oh, an outline's not important, or they don't even think about it for an in-class exam. It's important, or essay, but it is important for both in-class and out-of-class essays. So making sure to leave yourself enough time to outline. And one thing you can do here is number each part of the prompt and then cross it out once you've included it in your essay. So if it's, the example that we have on the screen and the right side is, they talk about A, B, and C. And then once you, would include A, B, and C, that's great. But you can even break it down further. And underneath C, you'll notice that there's 5 different bullet points there. You could really break that down and say, make sure that you've included all of those areas. You can, even if there's no numbers, if it's just one giant paragraph, multiple questions, breaking that up and as part of your outline of where you're really going to answer those. And then having an intro and conclusion. It can be so easy to just jump into an in-class essay, but really making sure that you still are introducing, that you're going to answer this, how you're going to answer this question or these questions, and then concluding, telling the professor, hey, I did exactly what you asked. Like, this is how I answered your questions. And, I did it as kind of like a proof to yourself and to your professor that you were following the prompt and answered what they asked of you. And along with that, having an intro and conclusion, making sure to break into paragraphs as well. So that way it's not as jumbled and your thoughts can just be really more clear for anyone who's grading your work, and for you to make sure that you're covering everything that you need to.
Great. So now we'll talk about writing in-class essays online. Due to the new switching over to all online everything, nothing is on campus. And if you are asked by a professor to write an in-class essay through an online medium, these would be timed essays that would have to take place during your class time, but are now online. So this is going to be a very different feeling than writing an essay in class. It's sitting in a classroom with your professor sitting in front of you. It becomes your responsibility to create an environment and a mental environment that will help you succeed. The first thing is always not just to jump into the writing. This is the same as if it was in class in real life versus in class online. You need to make sure that you are giving yourself the time and the mental space to prepare. This preparation can include finding a clean spot to sit and write in. because a mess can be distracting. Find a location where you don't normally relax, like sitting a different way on your bed or using your desk or finding a chair in a quiet place. Making sure that you have water and snacks nearby so you don't have to get up and walk away from your writing in the middle if you need something. Um, Eliminate any distractions that you can. Set your phone aside. Use noise canceling earbuds if you listen to music while you write. Or if you are trying to choose music to listen to while you write, you can use instrumental music, movie soundtracks, and video game music, which are all designed to help your mind stay engaged without distracting you from your primary task. The next step, after you've created your physical environment, make sure that you check your internet connection before the class time starts, because you don't want to be spending your writing time trying to figure out how to make sure that your computer is connected or how you're going to upload the document. Make sure you give yourself time to do that before the time begins. If you're allowed to, bring prepared notes or an outline. Just like Danielle said, if you can practice ahead of time, if you can build an outline ahead of time that gives you a plan before the writing time, that saves you time for the actual writing process. And if your professor has allowed you to bring those prepared notes or a prepared outline, it's going to make it that much easier for you to complete the writing process in the given time, even in an online format. And if they have not allowed you to bring outside notes to this online writing of an in-class essay, make sure that you have a plan for remembering an outline or remembering your primary points. Give yourself a memorization schedule if you need one for preparing that kind of information. And part of creating a distraction-free environment for your writing is also using your physical computer's environment to create a distraction-free plane for you to write on. Some things that I like to use, and a lot of creative and academic writers like to use, are writing apps or writing websites, which are just word processors that are as distraction-free as possible and help you achieve goals by setting goals for you. They can help time your writing, and some of them are applications you can download on your computer, and some are applications that are online, live, just on the web. We've included some links below in this PowerPoint for those writing applications, and those will be useful for in-class essays that are online, or essays that you're writing outside of class that you're still writing on your computer alone, especially when you don't have access to environments like the library that are created to give you that distraction-free zone. And that distraction-free environment takes us into writing essays just in general, and takes us into our next slide, I believe. Yes. So when you're writing an out-of-class essay, all of the distraction-free physical environments in the in-class essay online version apply to out-of-class essays, especially because you're at home ostensibly writing on your computer, just you and your room or whatever home you're living in. So all of the physical environment things apply, but another thing that we as writers should take into account is our mental environment. How are we preparing our minds before we write? The most basic things like self-care can make a big difference in how your writing day goes, such as making sure you've gotten enough to eat, enough to sleep, making sure you're well hydrated, and have taken the time to stretch or do some quick exercising so that you're not feeling full of energy that doesn't have anywhere to go. Also set goals for yourself. We talked about this in the in-class essay, but this applies to out-of-class essays as well. Give yourself timestamps and word counts just to write. And working out of class, give yourself small writing tasks to do day by day rather than working on it all at once. And this applies to this plan that we have laid out that Danielle is going to talk about.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. That was really, really insightful about in-class online essays, and then also really transitioning well for the out-of-class essays. So Rachel's had a lot of good tips, so keep everything that she's also said in mind, but thinking about out-of-class essays, doing your research. So knowing how many sources you need and what information you need to discuss your topic. This is really important to make sure that you really know how many sources does your professor require, 5 sources, 10, 15, 20, 30, how many is required, and, making sure that you're finding those from the proper source as well, if they need to be peer-reviewed journals, or from a specific journal or a specific resource, making sure that you understand that as you go into your research. And that way, once you gather that research, you can really be more well-informed as you discuss your topic. And then with all that research you have, hopefully you can then create a thesis. So again, taking a stance, making a claim, and being specific. So this is really important and something that the Writing Center is very happy to help you with any of these steps. But I know that these theses can be very challenging for students, and really making sure that you make a very strong claim. So making sure to get help as you need it. And then an outline. So we'll mention this with everything. So with Inclass Online, and with out of class, making sure that you have an outline. This is easily skipped over oftentimes by students, but it really can actually save time. A lot of students think this might take more time. Oh, I know what I want to say. Like, I don't need to make an outline. But really, like, having everything laid out in front of you, then it's kind of just plugging it in, connecting it all together. So it can actually save you a lot of time in the end. And then you have to include these 15 resources. Where are you going to plug each of them in? What points are you wanting to make from each of those resources, or what facts are you wanting to provide? So that's really important as well. And so, yeah, plan out what you're going to say and when, and what research will support what you're saying in your paper. So don't do all that research for nothing, right? Make sure that the research that you have actually supports like your argument or your thesis or what you're trying to say. And then write. So outline is your guide, but pace yourself. You don't need to finish it all at once if you're taking the time to plan. So making sure that if it is, a big essay with those 15 resources, and maybe it's your final essay for the semester for an English class, making sure that you're not just doing that on the day before it's due. Like, you really want to make sure that hopefully you have time to do that research, to get feedback from your professor, from the Writing Center, from any peers, people in your class, friends, family, people that help you and that can, as you struggle or have questions, but also just to be that reviewer for you. So then also making sure to edit and proofread. That's super important. Again, from your professor, a friend, or of course, the University Writing Center. And now Rachel will actually talk more about the Writing Center and what that looks like with everything moving online for the rest of this semester.
Yes, so I currently work at Writing Center. I don't know if we said that earlier, but we are still up and running. We are still here for you at any stage of the writing process, no matter if you are an experienced writer or an inexperienced writer, no matter if English is your first language or not. We are still here to help you no matter what kind of writing questions you have. We are still doing online appointments through synchronous online appointments, which is an appointment that you make and we're both on the same screen at the same time, and we can hear each other and use video chat just like Google Hangouts, except it's through the Writing Center appointment program. This allows you to get real-time feedback and ask real-time questions about your writing. We also have asynchronous e-tutoring, where you don't have to be present for that. You just upload your document to the appointment slot. You express what kind of concerns you have, what kind of questions you have, what you would like to get feedback on. And within that time frame, a Writing Center employee and tutor will look at that and give you feedback at the end of the appointment slot. And both of those are very useful. We're not strictly a proofreading service. We're always going to focus on helping you be a better writer, but we can help you there on anything at any stage of the process, whatever your concerns are. We also have the grammar hotline still up, where you can just go to the wiu.edu/UWC, and a little talk screen or chat box should pop up in your bottom right corner, and you can talk real time to a Writing Center tutor and ask questions about the Writing Center, ask quick questions about grammar that you may not need a whole appointment for, or if you have questions about online resources, that's a place to go in addition to the library's chat that they have up and running. Our hours for this online end of the semester is from Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Saturday and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And the grammar hotline is also open during those hours.
Awesome. And then we have some online resources, and our website, or I'm sorry, I should say our website. So the website for Rocky's resources, which is the wau.edu/tutoring, that will have a recorded version of this presentation as well as a PDF version. So that way you can actually click on these links yourself. So you're not like Googling, looking all over for them. But we do have a link to the University Writing Center's website, also to our virtual tutoring and support page, which I just mentioned, as well as the library reference guides to help you in your writing, in addition to a lot of other really helpful online resources that Rachel can talk about here too.
Yes. So our online resources that we have listed here are a collection of resources that are not limited just to the university. We've got Purdue OWL, which is our go-to at the Writing Center. When tutors have questions, we always go to Purdue OWL. They have collections on multiple citation styles. They have information on the writing process. They have information on how to cite yourself, how to navigate certain kinds of papers. It's a very helpful resource. Michigan State Transition Words, that's a good resource. I'm not as familiar with that one.
I added that one.
Oh, okay. So Danielle knows about that one.
Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, Michigan State Transition Words. This is something that is particularly helpful if you don't know how to start a paragraph or how to transition from one topic to another. It could be if you're trying to compare two things, if you're trying to say something's different from the last thing you talked about, something's the same as what you talked about. Really good ideas for starting your conclusions, starting your introductions, or even just like sentences as well. But really to help you with those transitions so you don't feel as repetitive, especially in like a really long paper. So definitely.
Yeah, that's a good one. We also, the next 3 links are University Writing Center's resources from other universities. All of them are very useful. All of them are resources that I've used myself. Millikan University has some great resources on APA and MLA, and Minnesota and UW-Madison both have good writing process information and good information about citation styles as well. The Chicago Manual Style Quick Guide is one that I go to all the time. It is one of the few citation styles that has its own website that is free to access, and that quick guide is especially important for those who have questions about footnotes or author note style in the Chicago or Turabian style of citation. The next 3 are resources that we've referenced earlier in the presentation. They're the online or the word processor apps that you can download that are distraction-free and very user-friendly. They're really great.
Awesome. And then we do have our email addresses for each of our respective offices up here. So for Rocky's Resources, you can email us with any questions at rockysresources@wiu.edu, and then the Writing Center as well, uwc@wiu.edu.